The wetlands of Alviso have been my home for generations. Located at the south end of the Bay Area, it's a beautiful stretch of nature next to a historical city. We, salt marsh harvest mice, have adapted to live only in the salty marshlands of the San Francisco Bay.
Well, I was born in 1944 over here at the marina. That was called a distillery in those days. And my father was the foreman. And all my relatives lived on little houseboats, and we had little tiny houses. And they would bring all the fruit over there, and they would make wine.
In the heart of Silicon Valley, where technological marvels thrive, Alviso played an important role in the founding of Santa Clara County.
If it wasn't for Alviso, you wouldn't have Santa Clara County, because the boats all came here in 1777, the De Anza party, and they built Santa Clara County because you had to do it by ship. Then came the railroad, airplanes and cars and all those things later on.
My ancestors have witnessed many changes over the years, but things have taken a concerning turn. In the past, the waters of Alviso were salty, and the ecosystem thrived. However, in recent decades, fresh water from the Guadalupe River has been diverted into the Alviso wetlands, lowering critical salt levels.
Fresh water comes from all 15 cities. They contribute their air conditioners, their storm drains, and everything else, their lawns, all the runoff comes into the Guadalupe and the Coyote. And it all leads to Alviso. So it dilutes the salt water. If you go out there, you get about 35% salt. Right here, about 1%. But when I was a child, it was 50%. More native, more original, more historic. The river had no vegetation, all salt water. So therefore the non-native vegetation wouldn't grow. So this used to be deeper, more fish, better habitat.
While satiating human thirsts, this influx of fresh water allowed invasive plants to infiltrate, squeezing out the native plants we rely on. As the invasive species crowded in, steamboats could no longer come to the port, severing a long-standing human connection to this place. The invasion of these plants is not just an inconvenience, it's a threat to our existence. This ecological shift doesn't only affect me, it extends to my fellow inhabitants, like the Ridgway's rail and the blue heron. The struggle to preserve Alviso's history and habitat now carries the added weight of protecting endangered wildlife like myself. It's not merely a matter of human concern, it's a plea for the safeguarding of our fragile world and the delicate existence of those who call Alviso home.
There's about 120 million gallons a day, half here and half a Coyote. Go to the bay, you're destroying it. It's illegal, but they do it and they get away with it. So that's why we have the recycling plant to take 8 to 10 million gallons a day and recycle so we can use it for landscaping and keep our domestic water for drinking. Now we want to increase that to 40 to 80 million gallons a day. And that's very important today, recycling.
Excessive groundwater pumping has caused the land itself to sink at astonishing rates.
It's a community that lives below sea level because of a history of groundwater pumping that actually lowered the ground level. So historic actions have put the residents of at least parts of Alviso at risk every time we have serious flooding. And from my understanding, there have been 3 or 4 major floods in the last 50 years. So it's a major risk, and we know from studies about climate change that it's going to get worse, not better, over time.
Groundwater pumping, a practice etched into the landscape's history, lowers the ground level, subjecting Alviso to the peril of serious flooding.
One of the most major, I would say, is recently last year at the Alviso Park. It actually flooded about 2 feet. There was about 2 feet of water. It looked like I called it the Alviso Lake. It was, it's pretty bad out there.
Despite the environmental changes, conservation efforts have been made to fight the environmental destruction that has plagued Alviso.
Well, what happened was the county, we have the water district, and we were created in 1929 because of subsidence. All the different wells and all the orchards were sucking all the water up. So they created a water district to oversee that and do recharge. So Alviso hasn't sunk since 1968.
So there's the really big conservation effort being made to protect Alviso birds and their ecosystems in the South Bay and Alviso area is the South Bay Salt Pond Restoration Project. It's been going on for a few decades already, and it's projected to go on for a few more decades. But the overall aim of it is to take a bunch of those former salt ponds and convert them back into tidal marsh.
We've been fortunate to see some really good investments in habitat protection, and San Francisco Bay Bird Observatory has had some really good science going on for quite a long time so that we can understand the habitats and understand what differences human actions can make and ways in which we can protect habitats.
Behind me, you'll see the work that's being done to improve the shoreline levee, because this area used to be prone to a lot of flooding, and we're trying to make sure that as sea level rises, that Alviso and North San Jose will be safe from those high waters. So we're working with the Army Corps of Engineers and other major organizations to help fund this project behind me to raise the levees, which will prevent water from running into this area, but also will restore the wetlands that are around it.
Habitat loss and flood risk endanger our future. We saw marsh mice implore, restore the wetlands' delicate balance so these coveted shores thrive for generations to come. To help, you can clean up your trash because litter is carried through the Guadalupe River into Alviso, impacting the very heart of our habitat. You can learn more about where your water goes by visiting a valley water treatment plant to discover how you can actively participate in recycling water. I implore you to experience the marvels of Alviso firsthand. Visit Alviso Marina County Park, immerse yourself in the beauty of this historic landscape, and bear witness to the delicate interplay of nature. Support local conservation efforts, engage with community initiatives, and spread awareness about the challenges faced by Alviso. Together, let us ensure that these coveted shores thrive for generations to come.